Volk hinzutreten und billige Versprechungen zu geben. In uns selbst allein liegt die Zukunft des deutschen Volkes. Wenn wir selbst dieses deutsche Volk emporführen durch eigene Arbeit, durch eigenen Fleiß, eigene Entschlossenheit, eigenen Trotz, eigene Beharrlichkeit, dann werden wir wieder emporsteigen, genau wie die Väter einst auch Deutschland nicht des Selbst erhielten, sondern selbst sich schaffen mussten.
Hitler and the Nazi Party now control the people, the parties and the press. The far-reaching hand of the Nazi Party is tightening its grip on Germany, using many forms of propaganda and control to censor what was and was not seen by the Volk, the German people. This propaganda was not only applied to television, radio and newspaper, but also the arts, German music, literature and even architecture, creating a Nazi history on canvas that Hitler would approve of and history would eventually disprove. Hitler, himself a failed artist, took great interest in paintings. His favoured styles of art were classical, and he often criticised modern and abstract paintings, calling them vulgar and un-Aryan. This artistic preference reflected in the styles of art produced in Nazi Germany.
In my view, there was a great dichotomy a great difference between Nazi art, as in fine art and architecture, in that, on the one hand, Nazi architecture was, very, very grand and was meant to reflect, the Third Thousand-Year Reich with great overtones of the Roman Empire in all its grandeur and majesty, whereas art was meant to depict much more down-to-earth things, Nazi family life, and it was meant to be very, very literal. So whereas architecture, in fact, was very, its symmetry and geometric patterns was very abstract, they almost seem to be contradicting themselves by, insisting that art was very, very literal and easy to understand, with lots of curves and real people being depicted. As to the impact of both art and architecture, I don't know, I kind of get the impression from all that I've read that, it didn't have that great an impact as they thought. That on the one hand, Hitler and Speer and the people at the top were absolutely engrossed in using art and architecture. But if you actually get down to grassroots level, for example, in 1937, when Hitler set up two rival art exhibitions in Munich, the one of proper Nazi art and the other of degenerate art, and basically said, do not go and see the one which is all about degenerate art because it's not proper Nazi, it's very abstract and so on. 4 times the number of people attended the art exhibition that they knew that the Nazis disapproved of. People were going to be drawn to that. And I think, like a lot of Nazi propaganda, people went along with it only so long as it suited them and so long as there were benefits from it. You look at, for example, if you think of just moving away from art and architecture for a minute, if you look at Nazi policies as propaganda, HJ, DAF, policies on women, the youth and women and industrial workers went along with these policies and all the propaganda that goes with them only so long as it suited them. So, like in so many Nazi areas around sort of 1936-7, we see, a turning away from close adherence to Nazi policies, for example, increasing non-attendance at Hitler Youth, this art exhibition that I've just mentioned, you know, people were only paying lip service to to Nazi propaganda, and I think to a large extent it was just going on, you know, over their heads, and they couldn't really care less one way or another.
Art was not the only victim of Hitler's cultural purging. American and Jewish music, along with other Western songs, were eventually banned in Germany to make way for what Hitler and Goebbels described as good German music. Some of the more popular composers included Ludwig van Beethoven, Richard Wagner, and Anton Bruckner, all of whom composed music approved of by the Nazis. This censorship was implemented by Richard Strauss, head of the Reich Chamber of Music and common acquaintance of Hitler himself. As a result, flocks of musicians, along with artists and writers, emigrated away from Germany whilst they still could. Folk operas and patriotic music were, however, encouraged, and many musicians willing to follow the Nazis became very popular. An example of this was the young Karl Orff, commissioned by Strauss to compose music for the 1936 Berlin Olympics. Carmina Burana, based on German medieval themes, became a favourite of the time, and Orff was credited as a master musician by Hitler and other leading Nazi officials. The portrayal of complete control over music was, however, just an illusion, and there were those who resisted.
Go, Thomas, you're the king of Ireland!
The Nazis hated swing music and jazz. They saw it as a negative American influence, originating from what they considered to be immoral black jungle music. Worst of all, they thought it was a Jewish plot to contaminate their precious race. We didn't care though. It was fun and alive, so different to the classical music they brainwashed us with and the Hitler Youth. I was a member by name, but never by spirit, and I would prove that as often as I could in the swing clubs. That was heaven. We wore what we wanted, what was fashionable. There was always a rush of the people and the music and the laughter, something you didn't hear often then. We would dance the night away, without a care in the world. They would try to break the parties up, but rarely did they catch us, and even if they did, it wouldn't deter us. We never considered ourselves to be a violent rebellion. That wasn't what we wanted. We just wanted to have a good time. There were the Edelweiss pirates, though. Now they were trouble. Always in a fight with the Nazi officials. But I guess anything was better than being brainwashed. A brainwashed Hitler Youth. How we would laugh at them. We even have this song about them, which we would sing to swing music. Crew cuts and big ears. This way the HJ was born. Long hair and tango step, the HJ can never keep pace. Uh-oh, uh-oh. You can hear it everywhere. The HJ has to go.
Hitler's total censorship of foreign music showed his emphasis towards totalitarian control of the state. Mussolini, on the other hand, Hitler's companion in the quest to spread fascism, took much less drastic measures to discredit the West. By allowing swing music and American songs to be played in Italy, Hitler felt that Mussolini was weak in his resolve to discredit capitalism. (1923). Nazi leaders and supporters marched on Munich in a putsch aimed at overthrowing the government. The result? Failure. 16 Nazi officers dead and Hitler imprisoned. It was in this time spent behind bars that Hitler wrote what was to become the cornerstone of not only literature but also Nazi ideology. Mein Kampf, translated to My Struggle, spoke of how Germany would be restored to its former glory before the influences of the November criminals and the impure Jews. These anti-Semitic views were to be reinforced by literature released under Nazi rule, with any publication showing views contradicting those of Hitler in his own book being banned and often destroyed. Some say that literature died within Germany during this time. However, As with music, some books emerged popular by demand. Stories highlighting the power and supremacy once enjoyed by the German nation were very popular amongst supporters of the regime, and Hitler himself enjoyed telling stories of old German battle victories, which he claimed he was, or would soon be, emulating with the Nazis.
They came in the night, unannounced, taking with them the authors they disapproved of. I was lucky to leave when I did. Many authors are purged who didn't conform to the Nazi ideals. I used to write romantic novels, much to the likes of Jane Austen. We used to have book clubs, but after the ban on non-Nazi organisations, we ceased to exist. It was heartbreaking as an author, watching children and adults read only Nazi-produced books. I could see the deterioration of an educated society. Books, I feel, are so important and pivotal to a person's education and development. That's why I became an author in the first place. They are so important to me, and especially at that time, they were our only real escape from the realms of the totalitarian one we lived in, ruled by terror and violence.
As in other areas, the Weimar experimentation in drama was abruptly ended in the Third Reich. Many playwrights left Germany when Hitler banned their plays for defying the ideology of the Nazi Party. Officially approved dramas concentrated on historical drama and the blood and soil stories of patriotism and war. These plays were brought to the people through the Strength Through Joy program in subsidized theatres. This new wave of drama was known as Singspielen, which literally meant assembly. Nazi Germany was a state of control. Art, music, literature and theatre were all mediums through which Hitler aimed to gain control and create a totalitarian Nazi state. The extent to which he achieved this is still debated to this day. However, it is clear that he was successful in eliminating all versions of Germany except his own, Hitler's Germany.